Hey guys, welcome back to the BB Show. This is going to be our last and final episode. My name is Isa, like always.
My name is Carlos.
And today we're going to have, it's going to be a little bit of a short episode. We're going to answer a series of questions like we normally do. And yeah, we're just going to talk a lot. Okay, so Carlos, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you like being a part of Gen Z?
I'd say I do, but at the same time, like, there are certain, I don't know, like, connotations that comes with being Gen Z that I'm just, like, not a fan of, but it's, like, I feel like that's more of, that has to do with, like, the connotations themselves coming from other people than it is, like, actually being a part of Gen Z, because, like, did I ask to be born in Gen Z? Like, I don't think so, but I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
I think I go underneath like the same, that's what you said. Like, I like being a part of Gen Z because we've done a lot of things as a whole, but at the same time we get judged or like sectioned, sectioned into different things, but we're not about that. So yeah, that leads to the next question, which is, do you think it's a good idea to be grouped by generations of 15 years?
Okay, so, I think for certain, concepts, it might be just because, like, you can see, like if you analyze certain data in regards to generations, like, probably it would be a good idea. But in regards to being judged as a whole, as Gen Z, like, in, like, daily life, I think that's a little, like, reductive. Cause I'm Gen Z, but I'm also like 2005. Like, I don't know what y'all were doing in 2005. I was being born though. And so, like, I don't know. Like, there are Gen Z that are like from 1996, and like that's 19. So I mean, no offense to y'all though. No offense to y'all. I'm just saying, like, like sometimes, yeah. Shout out Daniela. But like, you know, like sometimes we have different experiences, and like, especially like the younger Gen Zers are like, can be very different and have very different experiences than like the older Gen Zers. So like, I think for certain like senses, I feel like it's not that good of an idea to be like just like judged like as a whole, because as a whole generation, especially because like you also have to take into account like all the intersectionality that comes with being a part of Gen Z. Like, yeah, I'm Gen Z, but I'm also trans Latino. I'm also, you know, an immigrant. I'm also many other things that like a whole lot of other people who are Gen Z can't relate to, and that a lot of other Gen Zers like have a very, very different experiences that I have as a Gen Zer. So that's why, like, yeah, for certain things it makes sense, but at the same time, like, I think it's a nuanced conversation that can be had around Gen Z.
Real. I agree with everything you said.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this is for our next question, which is, what is the current activity around social media, like TikTok, Instagram, and how Gen Z uses it as a platform for their activism? So I'm gonna pop off real quick because back at home in El Paso, I'm a part of a mental health organization called Keep in Mind, which is rebranded. We were called Nemify Mental Health, but now we're called Keep in Mind. And this was like an organization that started back when, a little before COVID hit. And as you know, COVID didn't really help us all. Like, we were all just living our lives, and then all of a sudden shut down. We were in our houses all the time for a long period of time. And I feel like a lot of individuals weren't in the right headspace mentally. And I feel like that's when a lot of people started to talk more about mental health, especially because we had never experienced as a community a pandemic before. So I feel like mental health was definitely in a rise since then. And so at home in El Paso, my friend Arely Rosales, actually, she started her own little mental health group on Instagram. And I think in your swag bags, there's like a little flyer with our information on it and our Instagram. And we also have a podcast, so on Spotify, you guys can listen. But yeah, and then feel free to follow us on Instagram too. We post a lot on there, and I do the graphics for the social media. So yeah. But yeah, we post a lot. We have resources on there, and our DMs are always open for any conversations that you guys want to have. We're always going to be there for y'all. And yeah, we're trying to get out there a little bit, which is why I brought it over here in Houston. Talked with my group, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. So we're trying to get out there, not just be in El Paso. So trying to, spread around a little bit. But yeah, so another question that we have is, how can you support young people like us? How do you think people can support young people to start a podcast?
I mean, yeah, first of all, like, listening, just like you said, like, like, supporting people who are starting podcasts and just, like, getting their voice out there, because, like, I mean, as young people, sometimes, like, we just feel that, like, we shouldn't speak up, or, like, there's no point in us speaking up, because, like, at the end of the day, like, who's gonna listen to us? Like, that's kind of, like, the mentality that we have, like, a lot of us, when we start out, because, like, a lot of the times in certain households, I think it can be a common experience in Latina households, where you're just told, like, as a young person, you're kind of told, like, you're there to be seen and not heard, and, like, you're just, like, your voice doesn't matter until you earn a certain respect for your age. Like, it's not whether, like, your accomplishments, or even not just your accomplishments, but being a human being with, like, reasoning skills, and just, like, and, like, with a deserving to be heard, and, like, that's, like, you're not offered that respect a lot of the times. So I think as a young person, it's, like, really important, not only to be heard, but to be, like, encouraged to put your voice out there. Or especially, like, in podcasts, but also just in general, like, speaking up in your community, like even just through social media or something like that. Because I know, like, 915, or, like, now rebranded as Keep in Mind, like, they do a really good job of that. And, like, they're so active on Instagram. Like, I'm just, like, I live for their stories. So, like, I just think it's, like number one for supporting people who want to put their voice out there. It's just, like, it doesn't even have to be, like, a really, like, high effort type of stuff. Like, supporting just like a little hype up in there is, like, feels nice as a young person when you're told, like you deserve to speak up, and, like, you deserve to be heard. So yeah, that's what I kind of think about that.
Yeah, I agree in the lines of supporting just by listening to us. Like, if y'all ever decide you want to listen to a podcast episode, it helps us. Just so that y'all can hear what it's like from a youth perspective on certain topics, because we have 4 episodes out right now, and each one covers a little bit behind, like, Latina youth, coming from me and Carlos. And I feel like the topics that we talk about are very important to hear, especially when it comes to family traumas and how that affects us as we grow. So that episode is actually a part 1 and 2, because we had a lot to say about that. So they're both an hour and, like, 15 minutes. But yeah. And yeah, like, and any one of you guys can start a podcast. I know, Carla, you mentioned that you wanted to be in a podcast episode, or you wanted to start a podcast or be in one. Like, yes, you guys can totally do that.
Yeah.
Literally, we just made a YouTube channel, and we're like, we're going to put this on the internet, because why not? So, like, anybody can listen to this. Like, I have friends at home that have already listened, and they're like, oh my god, like, y'all are so real, this and that. And, like, it's nice to, like, have that support, especially from my inner circle, like my friends. And I know we still haven't done a listening party, like the prevention team, but we're going to soon do a listening party, which is going to be pretty cool. And yeah, and it's actually really nice, especially for me, like, as an editor, like, because I take a lot of time and to do, like, all the edits for the podcast. So, like, for y'all to listen, it makes me feel happy that it's, like, put out there and y'all like it, because, like, it's like, wow, your work, like, paid off, like, it's cool. So that's also a nice feeling to like know that the people that are listening are having a good time when they're listening to the podcast. So yeah. So we're gonna touch back on the current activity around social media with youth. How do you think we do that?
Well, can you repeat the question actually, please?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. What is the current activity around social media, like TikTok and Instagram, and how does Gen Z use it as a platform for their activism?
Okay, that makes more sense. Apologies. Yeah, so I feel like in general, Gen Z, like podcasts, even though, yeah, it's important to listen to what young people put out there in terms of their voice, but also just like Gen Z use like social media as a platform for their activism in more than one way. I know I see a lot of like Instagram posts, and like I know that's like for me because I've been seeing it for a while. Like I've been online for a long time, probably longer than I should have been. But yeah, like I know that I've been seeing like Instagram posts, and sometimes like they're actually like they're fact checked, and they're like important for people to put out there because like they provide the youth with a lot of information about like current ideas in the world. Yeah, cool, Megan.
I remember during 2020 when there was a lot of protests because of George Floyd. I remember people using that, especially me being in the Dallas area. There were a lot of different protests happening, and I remember people using social media to tell people where to go, because without that, I would not have known, who was organizing what, where they were going, how many people were going to be there, like if there was people talking about doing counter protests, like if that was going to be a threat to me. So I feel like social media, Gen Z, I mean, even like in terms of like 2012 and like the Arab Spring, it is incredibly important and powerful for social movements and social justice. And so I think that was like really like a poignant thing that you said about using social media as a platform instead of just, like an app to talk to people about.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Like I remember that too, because I was very active. Like that's the only thing I had to do. So like I do remember all of like the George Floyd posts and like learning about like all of these. Like I remember like during quarantine, like just like challenging all these biases that I had, like from growing up in not necessarily a conservative household, but just a household where there was certain notions that maybe weren't the most correct. But like I know that through social media, like a lot of young people speaking up and putting all these ideas out there and like challenging these ideas that people had before kind of has been the way that like people like help out and their community and stuff like that. So that's like I think that's a big part of what Gen Z has been able to do with social media.
I'm being a mic hog right now, I'm sorry. But I also think in terms of like sexual violence prevention, social media can be incredibly important. I'm very connected on certain social medias with people that I went to schools with. And I also like people that my sister went to school with and stuff like that. And there are a lot of like information that people will share with people, especially for freshmen, to keep them safe. Like it'll also be used to share like avoid this person or something like that. And I think that's another aspect of like social justice, especially in terms of sexual violence prevention, that social media can be very helpful for, is even if people don't, maybe want to press charges against somebody who is an offender, they can raise awareness to, possibly get a social punishment for that person that can prevent them from harming further people in the future.
Yeah, definitely. You ate with that. Okay, so I think now we can move on to the next section. Yay!
Okay. So yeah, we're okay. So this is gonna wrap up the first part of the podcast. So I'm gonna be recording the entire session, so that way they can hear our conversations that we're gonna have on the channel. So yeah. Okay, so that's gonna wrap up this section. So for the next part. So we're going to be myth-busting some stuff about Gen Z. If y'all are comfortable, I'm going to pass around this little tub, and it has different myths that we pulled up about Gen Z, and then we're going to bust them and see if they're accurate or not. So who wants to start?
Gen Z doesn't care about politics?
So, personally, I don't think it's that we don't care about politics. It's just that a lot of it is very complex, and it's a lot for youth to process, especially people who are barely turning 18 when it comes to voting and everything. And for politics, like, it's not that we don't want to be informed. It's just, once again, very overstimulating. And it's not that we don't care. It's just that it's very hard to be able to voice our opinions for anybody to not get judged. So a lot of the times, Gen Z puts their voice out there about politics, and they're like, no, you're wrong, no, you're this, no, you're that, which also falls into a form of adultism. So it's like we feel very, what's it called? I guess, very small when it comes to that topic. So it's not that we don't like politics, it's just that when we do put our voices out there, it's kind of hard for it to be heard because of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, can I add on to it?
Yeah, of course.
I also wanted to add on to seeing that who we see that holds power also kind of reflects on, like, I wouldn't say makes us not want to care for politics, but also, or I guess kind of shames us for not doing it, right? Because it's like at the end of the day, like, we don't have the power in reality, right? Or even I think our generation cares for like social movements that are going on, but we don't have as much position as others, and even then it's kind of hard to I would say believe certain people or certain, like, even millennials, like what's her AOC, who can get that movement, right? Who can get that movement from the Gen Z because of the way they interact and certain things. It's also like, okay, but how much are you actually listening to us, right? So I think it also goes into play.
Yeah. Did you want to add something? Yeah.
I totally agree with everything that you guys are saying. I think it's like an efficacy issue. People don't feel that their vote matters. They don't feel that it's important. And I think also, like, the system that we have is designed, like, there are young people that work in politics. I was a young person that worked in politics, but they aren't in positions to really affect change. They're like interns. And even doing that, which is like one of the best ways to get higher up in the career, is incredibly difficult if you are poor, if you come from a different background than the typical upper middle class, white, waspy kind of like person. And it's really hard when especially when you're young and you first begin to vote, to be like, oh, okay, it's this, person that doesn't really represent what I feel in my generation is the most important, and this other person that I don't feel represents the most important issue. And so I feel like a lot of people just don't feel efficacious enough to vote because we don't have options that are, the people that we have, the candidates that we have, don't care to emphasize the youth vote in a way that shows that they're actually listening to us, rather than just tokenizing us and trying to, be like, yeah, I care about the youths, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. I was just gonna say that okay, go. I may be a little different. Not like I'm so different, but like in the kind of way that like I'm just chronically online. So like I've cared about politics for a long time, and like the way that I care about politics has changed over the course of my life. But and that's a very short life, so I understand that it is different. Yeah, I like it just like kind of blows my mind when people say like Gen Z doesn't care about politics, because that's like been my experience. But at the same time, like, I can see why Gen Z can be like pushed away from politics, but it's not like something that they're actively trying to do, and instead that's a result of like the way that politicians and like the system in general kind of makes Gen Z, like makes young people, because I know it's not going to be just a Gen Z problem, but it's going to go on for future younger generations, that like we're just like discouraged from partaking in the political process, even though like we're also told at the same time, like, you have to vote, but at the same time, like, sometimes there are like stuff put in place for us not to be able to participate in the political process, especially if you're a young person who is also disadvantaged in many other ways.
I think adding on to like a good example of kind of like I guess a way to be discouraged. I remember being in undergrad and we only had like 1 or 2 registration polls, and while my university wasn't as big as a large university like UT, we did have a few thousand students, and most of them lived on campus, so most of them would vote there on campus, and the lines were just long and long, like they were hours and hours of waiting. And so it was where people were getting on the line because it was just too long to vote and I remember vividly for the presidential campaign, or for the presidential run. And so it's also, we know there's resources. Where are those resources being placed, right? Why can't we bring those to the youth? So it's also being like, y'all don't care about us, and like I have class all day, I have work, and this is just as a college student, I can't imagine like a high school senior who can vote, but is also like, where? You know, like where do I go do that? Or I don't have a car, or I have practice after school, you know, like it's kind of making it more accessible to young people, especially with voting and being more empowered with that. Yeah, we say like your vote matters, and one vote counts for another vote, like, you know, counts for like someone who can't vote and all those things, right? But also at the same time, I'm voting for myself, and I can't even do that.
Okay, Papa.
Yes, we love that. Yeah, we're gonna do the next one.
Who wants to do the next one?
Gen Z isn't prepared for the business world.
Wait, I mean, personally, I'm not a business major. And I'm scared of the business school, right? So, no, but I don't think that's true. Like, I think that's just an idea that's held by a lot of older generations. Because, like, of adultism in general. Like, they just, like, believe that as young people, we don't deserve the respect given to other people of their generation. Because the sole fact that we're young, and that, like, in their minds, we just don't have, like, the mental capacity to be able to do the stuff that they're able to do, which is, like, not true. Like, I don't know how many people I've seen on Instagram with a lot of businesses that they start and that become successful. Like, how many crochet businesses have I seen out there? How many, like, young people? I know I was an NHS officer in my high school, and so I had to do interviews for newer NHS generations, and like, there was this one girl who was like, hello, and then she, like, shook my hand and everything. I was like, oh, okay, so we're doing that. And then, like, I was, like, interviewing her and, like, asking her questions with, like, my other teammates, and then she just randomly gives us her business card, and I was like, oh, that's so nice. Like, that was, like, literally impressive. Like, that was the most impressive, like, interview I had, like, in that whole round. And it was just, like, so cool to see, like, young people just, like, out there, like, just putting themselves out there, and, like, you know, especially because that starting their own businesses kind of gives them the power to, like, you know, like, break free from some of the barriers that older people put on them because of, like, the financial restrictions that they have as young people. So, I mean, I genuinely think that that's a myth. Like, Gen Z is just as ready as anybody else to enter the business world.
I just wanted to add, I definitely agree with what you said, that it's a myth, because, you know, from what I see, so I'm 96, so I'm kind of like Gen Z. I'm like in the middle trying to figure out which one I am.
You're a millennial.
Yeah, there you go. But I think they definitely are very well prepared, because one of the very powerful tools that, you know, Gen Z has is social media. So if you're scrolling, you know, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, all of that, they're very good at making all this different kind of content and, you know, getting the word out there about, you know, what brand they're starting or what kind of business they're trying to get going. So, I mean, I think they have all the right tools to help their business, you know, grow and get out there. So I think if anything, they've got that, I don't know what the term is. They have like that extra tool or thing that they're so good at social media to get things going.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I agree. No, but I wanted to bring up an example. So I had this block party, and the person who did a lot of the work and was helping me out, her name is Maddie, and she's 20 years old, and I think she just turned 20. And she's amazing. I didn't even know she was 20. Yasmin was with me. We're like, oh, how old are you, by the way? She's like 20. You know, the TikTok is like, you're 20?
20?
But she is just like, she was in charge of the entire market part, getting the vendors together. And of course, she would ask me questions. And I think it's pretty important on how you work with youth, because sometimes we work with youth and we might not be realizing that we're tokenizing them because we're like, oh yeah, we want to make them feel comfortable. And yes, but sometimes we see that as like stepping on like on eggshells, like making sure that they're, I don't want to say babying them, but it's kind of like you're not giving them that learning opportunity. So when I work with her, I'm working with her. I'm not like, oh, this might be a little hard. That's me assuming that something's hard for her. So I'll ask her, like, are you comfortable with doing this? Yes, no. And so it's just like working with her, but not like, you know, let me take this because I know it's going to be too hard for her. Or so I'm just like, I don't know. That's like my one thing of working with youth is like make sure you're working with them. Just how I work with Alexis is how I work with Carlos. And if something's, you know, more difficult or they need help, like for sure, like I'm there to assist, but I'm not gonna assume that Isa or Carlos can't do something, or, you know, even if they do something wrong, like, oh, but they're young, like, no, it's a learning opportunity. I'm not gonna yell at them either, but like, you know, how I work with my coworkers is how I work with them. And I think that's the point of intergenerational working.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm also in the middle. I'm a zillennial.
Yay.
So I can kind of see how people can think that Gen Z is like not productive, right, for business. But I feel that Gen Z kind of wants to like reframe the way the workplace is, right, and not necessarily like change it for the worse, but change it for the better. And I feel that they have the audacity to kind of voice that and like march to the beat of their own drum, then kind of stay locked in a system that is kind of turning obsolete, right? And so I feel like maybe the older generations might not approve of it, right? Because it's like, well, I went through this, so, you know, y'all should go through it too, right? I was young once too, so now it's like a seniority type thing when, you know, everyone else in between, I feel, you know, I've noticed certain changes, but I like that Gen Z voices that, right, that reform that we all kind of low-key want.
Yeah, definitely.
I also think that people have different looks at what an entrepreneur is, and we also have to kind of take part of what world we're in, or in what, I guess, era, I guess, or something. But it's more of, we're online, right? And so entrepreneurs are moving online. They don't necessarily, like, especially Gen Z kind of gets that because we have the advantage that we grew up with the online. And so we know how to work technology. We know how to work social media a little more, right? And push that forward. And so I don't have to go to a market to distribute my goods. I can just put them up on site on, what is it now? TikTok Shop, right? I can put them up on the TikTok Shop. As if I go viral, I'm making bank, if that really is it. Like, as soon as one viral video, the orders are coming in. But you're not at a store, you're not at a shop showing that your home, or at a place where, at your place where you create your goods. And so people aren't seeing that part, right? It's very like behind the scenes in their comfort space. And so I think that also takes part of like, oh, you're not out promoting your business, or you're not really an entrepreneur because you're not doing these things, right? But I was like, but it is, it's my way, right? And we're kind of, this generation is kind of changing as generations do, but we're changing it more behind the scenes kind of, and I'll get it to you. I'll put an aesthetic kind of view of what you want, or I'll show my merchandise in an aesthetic fun way that kind of doesn't even know that it's an ad, right? Like it's a 15-second video on TikTok or Instagram, and from there, like I'm gonna sell from there, whether you like it because you like the content, or you like it because you like the goods or the merchandise. Like it's gonna go one way, right? And that's business. But people aren't really seeing that because we're so used to just like seeing those videos and like ha 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 next, right? But within every next, there's let me check out what they're selling, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
I just think that when it comes to like that question in general, like it's so cap, and I'll tell you why. Most of the people that say that statement that us Gen Zers are not, ready for the business world are just people that are not willing to adapt. And a lot, nowadays we're changing in such a drastic way that everything, revolving with social media, electronics, like everything is becoming very like hands-on, where you can now work remotely rather than being in an office where you have to scan things in order for you to access them, or you have to do this and that. And a lot of people, they're very ageist. A lot of people, they're very old school, and they like when things are just black and white, And when you're presenting them all of these ideas, a lot of them are very closed-minded, and a lot of them are very tunnel vision, that they won't be able to see that bigger picture, and they won't be able to adapt to it. But what they have to understand is that as times change, things are going to change along with it too. So it's like, if you're not going to be able to adapt, then you're not going to be able to work with us within this generation, And a lot of people, they're going to be like, oh, well, it's because, you guys do this way, you guys do that way, and we like it this way. We like it black and white, and you guys like it colorful. But it's like, that's what people want nowadays. People want color. People want something that's going to be pleasing to the eye rather than it being black and white. People are going to want to work remotely. People are going to want to give you like QR codes to scan rather than you giving them, here's what you're going to do, this is what you got to do, without being given any context. Like nowadays, you got to talk to us, That communication has got to be there. And majority of the people, they're just not going to be willing to do that because probably back in the day, it's like, oh, just do this and you'll be able to figure it out like nothing. But now it's like, we want to have that active communication, and we want to have that. So it's like, I just think that people need to start adapting to the fact that times are changing and things are changing, and they have to wrap their minds around that, whether they're willing to accept it or not. And I feel like that's super important, is like that acceptance of it. Because if you're not willing to accept it, then in reality, you're not going to be willing to accept anything that's coming in the future, But yeah.
Oh, yes. Let's go, Shelly.
I was just going to say that I think that, especially when it comes to business, it's about relationship building, right? I think for my generation and younger generations, I think it's about respecting each other and having conversations about, there's a whole lot of things that I have no clue about that, young people I work with school me all the time on all kinds of stuff. And I appreciate that because it makes me a better advocate and makes me better at my job. So I think it really is about building relationships with people outside of your generation. And when you have those relationships that are solid, then you're open to like, oh yeah, I know that she's going to steer me in the right way, or he's going to steer me in the right way because they want me to succeed just like I want them to succeed. I also think that it's really important that young people just be really vocal about how things are changing and how things are getting better and improving, because if we're not open to see it and if we're not having like honest conversations, then we're going to be, like you said, stuck. But I think it really is all about building relationships with people and having honest conversations.
I appreciate you saying that because it's like liberating when people are open-minded to change. Because a lot of people don't want to change what they want. It's like set and that's it. Yeah. But like nowadays we're changing, we're evolving. So we need to have that open mind in order to accept it, you need to open up. Yeah. So you need to take it in, soak it in, and then let it marinate a little bit, and then it'll all be good.
Ways too, right?
Yeah. Because sometimes it's a both way, a two-way stream, like you said. Yeah. It's like we also as youth need to open up and be like, okay, wait, pause. Okay, let's meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then it doesn't mean that we're right either.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So.
Okay, the next myth is Gen Z are job hoppers.
Okay. This is not a myth, it's true. And a reason for that being is because now as like a generation, we have boundaries that we set. And most of the times we're called job hoppers because people cross those boundaries and it makes one uncomfortable. So it's like, why am I gonna stay at a job that's making me uncomfortable? I'm not looking forward to it every day, so why am I gonna stay here? It's not like it's not that we hate the job. Well, we might hate the job, but it's not like we're gonna stay there to suffer and not enjoy being at a job. So we'd rather dip, find a new job, and then find something that we like. So, yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie, I am a job hopper. But it is, like you said, it is because of boundaries. I would not leave a job where I felt like it was good work or that I was being respected or I could continue unless, it was something else. But I feel like I've worked a lot over the years. I've worked in like factories, and a lot of the people that have been there have been like there for 35 years, 40 years. And it was always just like, they would complain about the work ethic of young people and that worked with us. And I'd be like, no, these people are good workers and I'm a good worker too. It's just, you do not have to tolerate disrespect. You do not have to tolerate people using and abusing you. And I think especially young people, there is an expectation, like if you do like an internship or something, that whoever is in charge of you, whoever is managing you is going to walk all over you, and you just kind of have to suck that up. And that is so unhealthy, and nobody should have to work in that environment. And I think I see the same thing in my parents as well. My parents are boomers, and they very much will stay at a job for as long as they can. And if they are fired, they take it as a slight. And like they feel more like they owe the company something and not, no, we're just a part of this organization. This organization is paying my bills and it's helping me get some goal done that I want, like, you know what I mean? And especially in this work, I don't think that anybody I feel like the work that we do is hard enough. It's already difficult enough emotionally that people do not need to stay in a place where they are not being treated well and where their needs as a worker are not being met whatsoever.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think there's this negative connotation with being a job hopper that is maybe we need to reevaluate why we're mad at the fact that people are job hoppers, and that's kind of what has been mentioned. But yeah, I know that I worked at Starbucks for a month, and then I switched from one Starbucks in Austin to a Starbucks in Brownsville, and I was just it was a week and I was already being overworked. I was a 16-year-old and I was just starting my junior year of high school, and I was I do not need to be doing all this, and I dipped. And so yeah, I mean, I just feel as this younger generation, we kind of have this new idea that well, it's not new, but I feel it's just more common nowadays to be to know that our labor is worth something, and that also that we deserve to be treated with respect and to be treated well in the work environment. So
that's true about Gen Z, being job hoppers, but I really have no problem with that. I have family members that are kind of like that, and I don't find any issues with that. It's just the thing about that is if you're at a job that is not meeting your needs and that is not treating you as a decent human being and just abusing and manipulating you just in order for their benefit, right? You should never stay at a job where that is happening. And also because that just maneuvers into other aspects of yourself and your well-being. It can affect you physically, it can affect you mentally, it can affect you emotionally, and no job is worth any of that going on in anybody's life, whether you're a Gen Z, whether you're in the older generations of that sort. And so I think as long as you are able to have a job that you are happy in and that you're able to flourish in, and even if you are job hopping, continuously doing that until you are able to put yourself in a position okay, no, this is a stable job for me and I'm happy here and I am able to carry this out for 15 years or so. And so, yeah, I find no problem with that. Y'all go ahead. Y'all do y'all thing.
Thank you. Do you want to?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna go off of that too. So yeah, I guess like I'm in between because I was born in '95. But yeah, like my mom's a boomer and she'll be like, oh yeah, like job security and retiring from one agency is something that's like in the past. And I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense because I mean, if I've hit the top of where I can go in a company, then like what's next? Or if I'm not being paid for my expertise, my knowledge, my skill level, anything like that, especially in this economy, then, you know, I'm a bounce and I'm gonna go somewhere else where I'm appreciated. So like those boundaries that you have of, you know, putting your foot down and feeling respected, but also like knowing your worth and knowing that, okay, if I can't grow anymore here, then I've already expedited all my knowledge and skills that you can take from me, but you're not reciprocating that to me. So where do I go from here? Then I need to leave. So, I mean, that whole job hopping thing, it's viewed as a negative because, yeah, but nobody has that luxury of retiring from a company and staying there and being like, oh, I have a 401k, blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, like, I gotta leave to be able to survive and take care of myself and my fur babies, you know? So.
Real.
And I think another thing is, we have to remember a job serves one main purpose, and that is to pay you. Everything else, if it's a job that you like, that's a bonus. That's really good. Most people don't have that privilege, but that's not the purpose. Like, a job is not meant to fulfill you in some other way. Truly, it's meant to pay you. And we have student loans that are freaking inordinate. They're ridiculous. And I think that, like, there's a big reason why the generation that has accumulated so much debt and that is, you know, accumulating more credit card debt just to survive in an economy that is never seemingly good at all for us. You know, of course people are going to job hop. People want to make money and they want to be able to provide for themselves. It's the most simple thing. And I think that any other view of it is very irresponsible because it takes away what the actual purpose of a job is. And I think that that goes back to like a lot of things that, you know, we could talk about at other times, but you know what I mean. Like, it's not, your life should not revolve around your job. That should be the thing that pays you, and your life is outside of that. And that is like, it does not matter if you job hop. It doesn't affect your life.
I agree with that.
Did you want to add something? Sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. Speak your truth, queen.
I think it also helps that, like, I guess, the transition of, like, going from, you know what, I'm here regardless if it's good or bad, like, I need the money, like, I need to stay here, to our generation where it's like, yeah, I need the money, but I also care about my own mental health and, like, there's that huge shift of where we are kind of trickling over to mental health, right? And we are and setting boundaries and accepting, knowing what to accept and what not to. And having that open conversation with others that we talk to or that we see online and things that people talk about their experience and you're like, yeah, that's pretty. I was like, that's pretty messed up. I was like, this is something else, but I was like, it's pretty messed up. Yeah. Or kind of be like, I'm going through that too. Like, you know what? Like, I shouldn't be accepting this, right? And then coming out of a family where a parent might not have liked their job as much, right? Like, and coming home to that and seeing their expression of like the frustration from work going home, like that's not something I want to take for my future, right? Like, I don't want to have to be so frustrated from my jobs that I go home and that might affect my relationships with my partner or my relationships with my children because I'm so frustrated, or again, that like lack of like control that I lose, that I don't have at work that I might look for at home. There are certain things like that, as well as, I mean, it really is like once we've learned that we can find a job hop, I guess, until we find something that's for us or that we truly enjoy. As someone who, I just made my year at my current position, And this is the first time I've stayed somewhere for a complete year. And it really is. And I can see myself at this position for a lot longer, right? And not have to move to another job because of the environment, because of the support I receive at my job. Again, going with like, we are there to serve, to do our job and get paid. If you like it, like it is a bonus, but it shouldn't have to be a bonus, right? Like it's a bonus, but it shouldn't have to be one that you get at some places and not at others, right? And so that really is it. Like I get this bonus, and this bonus makes me want to stay a lot longer than any other job has made me want to stay.
Yes.
Okay, so that's gonna be our last question because we're running a little short on time. So our next activity is gonna be, we're gonna be talking about Gen Z lingo. So, this is my favorite part. Okay. So, Madison, actually, she showed us this today, and, hold on, I'm like in the way. So it's like, don't be a hater, bro. Like,
Bro.
so like, it says there, teen slang that confuses adults, bet, sus, that's kind of mid, fire, and drip. It's like, just admit that our words are better than, our like way of saying is like better. It's okay. Just, you have to add a little twang, and it's okay. But if you notice, it says loony lingo, and it's like, yeah, it's like a little. I guess I want to say, I guess it's a form of like being adultist, because like, why are you putting a label on our language, like, or like our lingo, like thank you, but like no.
And I just wanted to add that Madison brought up a really good point when it came to that. That like, hello, like every generation has had their own lingo. Like, what about like words like groovy or rad or like, I don't know, like, you know, like, even like words from the 2000s. I can't come up with one right now on the spot, but like I'm just saying that every single generation has had their own lingo.
Or like swag.
Swag. Yeah, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I also wanted to add, since it's talking about like adding loony to those words and saying that it's adultist, but it's also racist because these words come from communities of color, specifically like Black communities.
Yeah.
And to add that onto it, it feels like there's this level of erasure that happens. And it is, as you said, adultist, but it's also like they're words that come from other communities that have existed for a very long time. And I don't want to erase that as we talk about this and like different places that words come from.
No, yeah, definitely. That's a really good point.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so we're gonna go over, we came up with a few phrases. So, yeah. So some of the ones on the top, we asked around to the people on the prevention team what came to their mind when they thought of Gen Z lingo or just like lingo that is used nowadays. And like the first ones that we came up with were Riz. Y'all know what Riz means? Yeah.
Yes.
No? Riz got gang. Yeah, Riz is like you got game. Okay. But it's another word for it.
It's short for charisma.
Charisma.
Wants to
Yeah.
And then we have other words like bet. And then one that I learned yesterday from Carlos was EP. What does it mean?
Sleepy.
Sleepy without the SL.
Like you could say, oh, I'm God's EP soldier right now. Because like you're sleepy.
Yeah, and I was like, you're what? I'm EP. And I was like, it was like I'm sleepy, but like without the SL. And I was like, okay. And then we got all versions of bro, boy, like the way you spell it, it means different things. We got bussin'. I mean, something's really good.
And I mean, that comes from it's bustin' with flavor. And it also comes from the Black community. So I just wanted to be respectful about that. Like, yeah, it's like a lot of these words are, you know, popular, but they were, you know, like popularized and come from the Black community.
Yeah, and then some that I've recently used or like Carlos likes to use is like you ate, you devoured. Like it's not like you're actually ingesting it. Like you did a really good job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I might be extremely chronically online, and this also might just be a MedCore thing. Do people say like dash coded? I say stuff is blank coded all the time.
Oh yes, yeah.
People don't say that as much. When I'm like, that's so like med coded or something like that. Oh, that's so Gen Z coded. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, oh, it's so like ESOC coded because it's like something that I would do or something that the person would do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have stuff like 8 and left no crumbs. Like,
Yeah.
And then we have like spill the tea. And then we were talking about this one earlier. It's like take the L or rare W.
Yeah.
It's like loss or a win. And then we have slay, period, and purr because like those are cool too. And then from the title of our workshop, it's called Fact or Cat. It's like that's cat. It's like that's not true. You lying.
Mm-hmm.
And then the most recent ones right now are girl math and girl dinner. So y'all know what that means, right? No? Yeah. Okay, so like girl math, an example could be like if you pay, money is free. Like if you pay with cash, it's technically free because like it didn't come out of your bank account and you don't see it.
If I
So it's
real. I can spend double tomorrow.
Yeah. So if you pay with cash, it's free. It's fine. And then girl dinner, it's like a random like small snack as like a dinner. It's like, yeah.
Well, it's a snack, but it can also just be like, we're talking about the linebacker eating girls over here. Like, there's like a bunch of like random stuff. We got like Lunchables, we'll have some pizza, we'll have like pickles. Like it's just.
Yeah, it's like a random combo of like a bunch of stuff put together. And then another one we came up with was I'm in my blank era. So it's like I'm in my soft girl era, or I'm in like my fall era, like it's stuff like that. I'm in my healing era, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I said I was in my trenches era because I'm just going through it.
And then we have the intrusive thoughts. So it's like you do something that you're thinking about, but you do it like out loud, or you do it like physically. So you let the intrusive thoughts win.
So on TikTok, I learned that it's impulsive thoughts, and then so it's like intrusive and then impulsive thoughts. So that definition that you gave is actually like impulsive thoughts.
Yeah.
I was educated by TikTok too.
Yes. Intrusive is a little more intense in the sense of impulsive is like, oh, it just comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, okay, like it, randomly. Intrusive is like it's always, that thought is always there. It's always there. It's always there. Like it always comes up.
It's obsessive.
Yeah, it's an obsessive thought, whereas the impulsive thought is a more proper term for like that, where it's like,
Yeah.
like what if I just like swerve?
No, because that's so Daniela coded.
Daniela sing a sidewalk.
Let me go.
A curve. What if I just hit it?
And then and so we also have like academic weapon. For those of us who are in school right now, we're trying to be we are academic weapons, but sometimes
we like to feel like academic spoons because it's not weapon.
It could be academic spoons, but it's
Wait,
okay.
what is that?
Oh, that was just like a term that me and my friends like came up with because like, well, I don't know if it's like popular, but like the academic weapon one, we've seen it all over TikTok, and we were just like, I'm not feeling like an academic weapon right now. I'm just feeling like an academic spoon or something like that, So, yeah.
And then another one that we have is side eye. It's like you have bombastic side eye. Yes,
Like
it's
criminal.
Criminal bombastic side eye. Like And then we have on our podcast, we actually say that we have big brain moments because it's like the BB show stands for big brains. So with a comma S because there's 2 big brains. So and then we have another one that's preying on my downfall for real. And then one that I've seen recently on TikTok is let me cook, or like who cooked here?
Someone cooked
here.
Yeah. And then we also some from the prevention team were the I ship blank. It's like I ship you and this person, I ship this and this and this and this. So
If I speak count? Like, when you want to say something that might be a little and you're like, if I speak ellipses, like
Or hear me out.
Yeah.
Let me say something first. But and then some other ones were like that's a little cringe. It's like, but cringe has been used for a little bit, but and then we have the ops. So we have like the
Old
oppositions
ops.
and like real life. It's like the ops are not gonna win today.
Yeah.
And the pull up come through. Yeah. And then we have what else do we have?
I'll do that right now. Like
The-
RN.
Oh yeah, right now the RN. It's like yeah, I'll do that, but like right now. And then we also have the I'm totally like screaming, crying, throwing up right now.
I love to use that one.
Yeah, that was me the other day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this is just like a combo of everything that goes on in Gen Z lingo. But yeah.
Wait, I wanted to add who knows about like common like Isa W or common L W like Isa L. Do you guys know what that means?
Like something that she regularly does that she should go on.
Yeah, I just know because some of the people in the prevention team were like, I don't know what that means, and it's like like for example, like Isa's always mean to me, so like I'm just like, oh, rare Isa W. Like sometimes. I don't know about that. No, it's the other way around, guys. It's the other way around, but it's okay.
Bro, if anything, you're mean to me.
I don't know.
But yeah, so that's our workshop. Thank you guys for coming, and yeah.
Thank you.